Hi, I'm David Gale, and welcome to ACTRA Spotlight, where we're building the Canadian star system one podcast at a time. Today we have a couple of amazing firsts. It's the first time we recorded in front of a live audience, and the first time we turned the mic around on our original co-host, the 2020 ACTRA Award of Excellence recipient, the incomparable and unstoppable Yoon. The podcast was recorded at Ryerson University during the ACTRA Toronto Members Conference. You're going to love it. Enjoy. Our first live podcast is with the incomparable Yoon. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about this amazing person. Yoon is a playwright. This is going to embarrass her. Yoon is a playwright, actor, activist, and mom. Born in Illinois and raised in Toronto, Yoon has lived and worked in Vancouver, Edmonton, Harbin City, and Yanji City in northeastern China, and now makes her home again here in Toronto. You may not know that Yoon began in theater in the early 1980s here in Toronto, performing, writing, and producing with numerous theater companies, and was active as cultural equity advocate and new play producer. In the 90s, she became a leader in new play development for playwrights of diverse cultures. She also sat on the secondary advisory on racial equality to Canada Council for the Arts and as vice president of PACT. Wow. Yoon's playwriting credits include the Dora-nominated stage play, The Yoko Ono Project, produced by Loudmouth Asian Babes, and Theater Past Mariah in 2000. We're in good company. Yoon continued to perform with numerous theater companies, and in 2011, she originated the role of Umma in the Toronto Fringe Festival production of Kim's Convenience, and later performed the stage show at Soul Pepper, and then across Canada and in New York City. In 2011, it was no surprise that Yoon was named one of Now Magazine's top 10 theater artists. That's huge. Yeah. Yoon is best known for her TV work in the CBC Netflix television adaptation of Kim's Convenience, and for which she received the ACTRA Award for Outstanding Performance Female in 2017. And as of yesterday, she has 3 Canadian Screen Award nominations for her role in Kim's. She also has had memorable roles on Orphan Black, The Expanse, Save Me. She was the voice of Connie in the Emmy award-winning PBS show Peg and Cat, and she was nominated for a Gemini for her performance in Dragon Boy. One of our community's groundbreaking inclusion advocates, Yoon addressed the CRTC on behalf of ACTRA in 2016 to argue that private TV broadcast licenses should continue to be tied to a commitment to Canadian programming. Yes. More recently, Yoon served as an ACTRA Toronto councillor from 2018 to 2019. Please give a huge ACTRA Toronto welcome to our 2020 Award of Excellence recipient, activist, Umma, supermom, and underachiever, Yoon. And we can't see this on the podcast, but she's on the cover of ACTRA Performers magazine. Awesome, pick up one, they're amazing. So, oh my goodness, hello.
Hi, David.
What was it like to hear all that stuff?
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Are you tired just hearing all of your credits?
Kind of, I feel like I've lived several lives.
You have lived several lives. So, you were instrumental in creating the ACTRA Spotlight podcasts that you co-hosted up until last year. And it's an honor to turn the mic around to you for our first recording in front of a live audience.
It's pretty cool, David.
Yeah. You started something and then it can't be stopped.
Well, I really felt that I listened to so many podcasts, and I just thought ACTRA needed one. And then we all hooked up, you, me, and Cass.
Yes, I told her she should do something about it, and then she came to me and she said, I think you should co-host with me.
Yeah, and then I backed out after a while because there's so much work.
Well, we miss you, but now you're back.
Yeah.
You can ask me questions too because you've hosted this.
I will.
Thing. But no, you won't.
Yes, I will.
So congratulations on your new Canadian Screen Award nomination as of yesterday. Yeah, Canadian Screen Award nomination. So you've actually won the Outstanding Performance Female in 2017 from ACTRA. You won the Members' Choice Ensemble Award in 2017. You've got the Award of Excellence award this
On
year,
Saturday, yeah.
and possibly another series ensemble award. Are you collecting ACTRA awards?
I have two beautiful ladies.
You have two beautiful
Because that
ladies.
statue is a
Show
beautiful
us.
lady like this. And so I arrange them depending on how I'm feeling. Sometimes they're like reaching out to each other. Sometimes they're kind of, in sync, and move them around. I call them the ladies.
The ladies. And
The
so
ladies.
you will see from the magazine that, you can't see it on the podcast, but you can see that Jean really knows how to put herself into a lot of different positions. Where does that physical fitness come from?
I was a gymnast when I was young. I trained really intensely until I was about 14 or 15. I was competing provincially, but I couldn't go on after that. It was just like it got super competitive.
Did you get a lot of pressure from your family to continue on as a gymnast or to
No,
practice?
it was me. I mean,
It was
my
all you.
parents. Yeah, it was. I wanted to do it, but for my parents, it was a lot of driving. Yeah, it got so competitive. It stopped being fun because the reason I enjoyed gymnastics was the joy of feeling competence in my body. But I'd gotten to the point where the people who were capable of training me were not in it for my joy. They were in it for their own trophies. And they were, honestly, it was psychologically stressful. It was a bit abusive. Sometimes the coaches
Really?
back, oh yeah, they just say, you're terrible, you're fat, you're whatever, do better. And at a certain point, it stops being fun.
Right. I don't think they're allowed to do that anymore.
No, they're not.
No, thank goodness. So many people don't know this, I'm sure, until I reported it in my little intro, that Kim's Convenience actually started as a stage play in the Fringe Festival.
That's right.
And you originated the role of Umma, but that was a little bit of a different character, right?
The stage play is really, it's about it establishes Appa and Janet, their dynamic, and Umma. It's set at a time later than the TV show. So Jung has been estranged from the family for a very long time, and Umma's really just carrying a lot of grief. Whereas in the TV show, she's quite happy and quite a bit younger, so there's more comedy, way more comedy.
And was it difficult to change, babushkas, change hats to be a younger character?
Not really.
No.
It was just for me, they feel like just completely, they're alternate universes, right? Like Kim's Convenience, the stage play, is a very dark timeline, and Kim's Convenience, the TV show, it's just it's the fun stuff.
It's the fun stuff, and you do it so well. So now it's on CBC and Netflix here in Canada. What about around the world? Where is it?
Netflix around the world. Yeah.
Do you know what locations that it's in?
Based on the feedback we've got, people are watching it in the Philippines, in Korea, in Africa, in Australia, in the UK. I've gotten messages from everywhere from Uganda and Scotland and Seoul and Sydney, Australia, Melbourne, Australia, all over the US.
That's a lot of love, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What it is it's an immigrant. It's an immigrant family, a
Right.
family where the parents' generation are culturally on a slightly different angle than the kids, and that experience is worldwide because people move around.
And it's universal, and it's not just in Korean families. It's any immigrant family.
Right.
Right. Now, as we were walking into the hall today, there were a couple of staff people here at Ryerson who were just so excited, and as you walked by, they went, "It's Umma! It's Umma!" So do you get that all the time?
Yeah, all the time. I've actually had to change gyms because I found that at the YMCA in the women's change room, it happened a couple of times where I'd be changing naked and someone would scream, "Ah! Mrs. Kim!" It's like, yes, I'm playing Mrs. Kim. I'm naked. You're naked. Let's talk after.
Really?
So, yeah.
It's a little embarrassing.
In Vancouver, even in Vancouver, I was just in Vancouver this weekend, and waiting in line to go to a cafe, and someone came up to me, and then she started to cry.
Oh no! She started to cry.
I know. So chatted with her until she calmed down, and we took a selfie.
So also you traveled with the cast to Korea this year, is that right?
Yeah, the show was nominated for Best Foreign Drama. In Korean, drama means any story, actually, any performance story. So, so yeah, it was me, Paul Sun-hyung Lee, who plays Appa, Andrea Bang, who plays Janet, and I took my son, and it was really fun.
Tell me what kind of responses they were giving you when you were there.
I was surprised that we were recognized in Korea. That happened as well. So just when we were, Andrea and I went to Namdaemun, one of the big markets, and we were just getting some dumplings, and the guy behind the counter recognized Andrea first, and I was surprised. So, the response was really positive.
Now, how was your Korean?
그저 그래요.
I'm assuming that's, kumsi-kumsa.
금시금사.
Yeah.
Mama huhu.
Uh-huh.
That's correct.
So did people come up to you and just start speaking to you in Korean when you were in Korea? Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was that for you?
That's my whole life.
Here too?
Oh, when people speak to me in Korean, like I usually guess. I can pick out. Sometimes I know generally what's being said, and it depends on the conversation, and I can respond based on that. But if I don't know, I really don't know, and I have to confess up. Yeah, 한국말 조금밖에 말할 수가 없어요. 미안해요.
Which means I don't speak very
천천히
well.
말해주세요.
Well, you've got me convinced. My Korean is like.
It's like, please, my Korean's very poor. Please.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, please, could you speak more slowly?
My problem is when I'm traveling, I like to learn a phrase in the language, and I'm a bit of a mimic, so I can do the phrase pretty well,
Yeah.
and they just assume, because I've said the phrase very well, that I have a complete understanding of the language.
Yeah.
Which is a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
mean,
not
on
a
my
mistake.
part.
It's a great act of respect
true. That is true.
to learn.
So I'm going to quote you here for a second. You said, telling your own stories shouldn't be a radical endeavor, but it still so often is. The key is not to fight each other over one small slice of pie. We just have to bake more damn pies. So, yeah, you can applaud for pies. So why don't you talk about the people who are your mentors? I'm assuming that you got this from mentorship over the years.
I've had the good fortune of working with a lot of really dedicated, wonderful people. When I was at Theatre Ontario as cross-cultural coordinator, my boss, Sandra Tulloch, taught me a great deal about how our institutions here, our arts institutions here, how they work, how they've been built, and what more we can do. She's an amazing. She's one of these behind-the-scenes persons that have made a huge impact on the cultural landscape that we have here in Toronto, and that we take completely for granted. As well, Beverly Yap, who founded Cahoots Theatre Projects, Sandy Ross, an advocate, and she was past president. She's president here at
First
ACTRA.
POC
You see her
president
painting
and first female president of ACTRA Toronto.
And one of the artists who founded Obsidian Theatre. And there's a painting by Jennifer Wigmore of her. Is it on the second floor?
On the third floor at ACTRA National, yeah,
Third floor
right in the lobby.
Yeah, she was a huge advocate and salesman, really, for cultural diversity and for actors of color, and did an incredible. She left an incredible mark in Toronto, I think, and on me personally. I learned a lot from her, but we worked together. And there's so many wonderful artists I've worked with along the way that I've learned from.
It's very important. And do you find now that you too are mentoring people who are coming up, and you find that Andrea, let's say, comes to you for advice? That she plays your daughter on the show. What kind of relationship do you have with her?
I feel like she's my little sister.
Oh.
I love her so much. She stayed at my place. I have a spare room, and yeah, we're great friends.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's a good
But
thing.
she's a fabulous artist. She doesn't need much advice from me. She
No.
doesn't. No. She's awesome. Yeah. But I do. If someone needs help, I'm happy to help in whatever way I can.
And you have, certainly at ACTRA Toronto, but we'll get to that. Okay, I want to ask you, I have to ask you, and this is a theater thing, loudmouth Asian babes.
Yes.
Tell me about that. How did that come about?
Okay, so Loudmouth Asian Babes was my little company. It was a sole proprietorship, and basically at the time I was mostly working with Cahoots theater projects, which I felt was like a big community vision, whereas Loudmouth Asian Babes was something I basically built up so I could do my own little projects.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the intent was to create art by, for, and about loudmouth Asian babes, or babes who were loud, or Asian babes who might or might not be, Asian, and disoriented theater for the disoriented and the culturally confused. That was my goal. So I basically did a bunch of one-woman shows with that company, and then the Yoko Ono project.
The Yoko Ono project, which was huge for you. So did you find that you had any concern about being taken seriously, calling it like Loudmouth Asian Babes because it had babes in the title or whatever?
No, is there a problem with the word babes?
No. But maybe if like a man used it, saying, "Oh, they're just babes" in that.
No.
In that context.
No. I think maybe you're worrying a bit too much.
Yeah. That's my job, to worry a bit too much.
I think the title basically said this is going to be funny.
Funny, exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to do funny stuff.
Which I thought was,
Yeah.
I laughed. Okay, so when I was interviewing Wendy Crewson in her podcast, I played a game with her because she had played so many doctors over the years in her career that I wanted to see if she remembered which doctor went with what show. So it's Name That Doctor Show, game show. So hopefully, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the name of the doctor.
Yeah.
And see if you remember what show it's from.
Okay.
I see you're a little concerned.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to give you hints there. Dr. Lin Chen.
Was it Odyssey 5?
It was Odyssey 5. Let's hear it for her. It's a Canadian show, so you're going to get like a thank you at the end of it. Dr. Carmel.
Oh, was that Remedy?
Nope.
No.
It's a TV show.
A TV show. I don't know.
It has history in the title.
The history of.
The truth is, sometimes you'll spend a day on something or half a day on something. Unnatural history?
Unnatural, okay.
Do you remember that?
No.
Great. Okay, so we got 1 and 1 here. How about Dr. Witzel?
It was a therapist.
Okay.
And I don't remember the name of the show.
I had never heard of it.
I was a therapist.
It was like that. Street Time?
Street Time? Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, I remember the other actor. She was not having a good day.
You're allowed to say her
when
name?
You're concerned? No, I can't even remember her name.
Okay.
Yeah. She wasn't Canadian.
Okay, here's an easy one.
Yes.
Because this is a big one.
Okay.
Dr. Montague.
Oh, Time Traveler's Wife.
Time Traveler's Wife. She got it! Okay.
They never used my name. But,
No.
But I always
It's a big one, that one.
Yeah, but I thought it was funny that they never changed the name to an Asian name.
Yeah, Montague. Well, you could have married somebody who was Montague.
I suppose,
right.
yeah.
How about Dr. Hajek?
I don't know.
Dark Matter.
That's Dark. Oh, Dark Matter. Okay.
Okay, here's one that changes it up a little bit. You played an OR nurse in this one.
Okay.
Do you remember playing an OR nurse in a TV series?
Yeah, I remember Bruce McDonald was directing it, but I can't remember what it was called now. But it was.
Was it Regenesis?
Regenesis.
That's
yeah.
right. So that's pretty good. She remembered who the director was, which is more important sometimes than the title.
It was fun. There was some fun gossip on that.
Okay, so
You know when you're sitting around and you just go yaga yaga yaga? That was fun.
well, it was a while ago, so maybe you can share the gossip.
I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
Remember
Remember it was juicy.
I'm pretty sure it's stale by now.
In Orphan Black, you played a coroner. Do you remember the name of the coroner in Orphan Black?
Janice Beckwith.
It's right! Bing, 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 bing. That's fantastic. Good for you. Now, how did you remember that?
It just the fan base of Orphan Black is pretty active, and even for characters as small as mine, you know, just, did 4 episodes over all those seasons. But yeah, and Kevin Hanchard would joke. He had some kind of a Beckwith something. He made some kind of a funny little rhyme
dance?
thing with So it burned into my brain.
That's good, and you remembered it.
Uh-huh.
I think some of the other ones you might not remember. I don't know. You played a character called Emina Kumalo.
Okay, that was a Canadian show.
Right. A medical
that
show.
Remedy?
That was Remedy.
Yeah.
Really good. And then that's enough. So
Yeah.
that's pretty good. I would say, what, a half and half there? You remembered? More than half? She remembered more than half? Okay, well, that's good. Well, and the truth is, I was saying earlier, you come on for a day on a show. Nobody actually ever says your name, so even when you watch it back, you don't know what your name. It's like, yeah. So how are you supposed to remember? So you've lived all over the world, right?
Yeah.
You've lived Vancouver, Edmonton, Harbin City, Yanjin City in northeastern China. Do you speak any of the Chinese languages?
Yeah, my Mandarin's actually better than my Korean.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so when I fled Toronto, when I fled theater and acting and all of that, I ended up teaching first in Yanji City in 1986-87, and that's the capital of the Korean minority zone in China. So I was using what Korean I had. I'd studied Korean like 3 years in university. They use a lot more Mandarin derived words in that part of China, and that the Korean speakers there use more Mandarin derived words. So I came back speaking kind of a communist Korean. Every now and then I'll say something wrong and someone will give me a weird look like, "Are you Bukhan Saram? Are you a North Korean
So
spy?"
what would make
and then I came back and studied Mandarin, which I discovered was easier for me to learn than Korean.
So what would make it communist Korean?
Well, basically calling someone comrade.
That would be, rather than friend?
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's in tongmun.
A tone.
No, it's just the word.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, basically the word that you would use for a friend or an address in the Korean minority zone, they basically use the word that's equivalent to comrade.
So have you used your Mandarin on camera much?
Yeah, Dragon Boys.
Dragon Boys.
Yeah.
And how was that?
It was fun, but it was a lot of work because the thing about translation that I found is that the writer writes their script, and then if they give it to a translator, dramatic translation is not the same as, say, a literary translation, because dramatic translation requires that the sort of energy and impulse of the writer's intent remains the same. So and context needs to be the same. So I found that with Dragon Boys, what I found really satisfying was when they paired me up with a translator-interpreter where we could talk it through and come up with the appropriate translation. Because the first pass, that was yeah. But I got to work with some really fabulous people. Jerry Chikoriti was director, and my screen husband was Zhang Chi-wei, Eric Zhang, who if any of you are Hong Kong's movie fans, you will know him from Farewell My Concubine. That's the most famous, and then also Infernal Affairs. He's quite short and he's stout, but he does the drama and he plays a lot of gangsters. You look him up, Eric Zhang, Tsang. Yeah.
And we have when you come to the awards on Saturday night, we actually have a clip from Dragon Boys. And he's in that clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
so that was fun.
So I want to go back to when you said, when I fled Toronto. Why did you flee? Were the police after you?
Well, I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated that if I'd done a bunch of really good theater shows. I'd met and worked with a lot of really good people, but then I was just hitting doors everywhere to the point where if I had stayed and kept trying, I think I would have hurt myself, like psychologically, artistically.
From banging into doors.
Yeah, from banging into doors. And one of the things I think one of the reasons I've survived, given the time that I started as a performer, is because I've known that certain obstacles require different tactics, require you take a different route. So what I decided to do was to focus on understanding who I am as an Asian artist, what my actual personal, historical, and cultural context is. So that required me to learn more Korean, to study Mandarin, and an opportunity came up to teach in China in this very remote little city. There were only 11 foreigners there at the time.
In the entire city?
In the entire city.
What size city?
It was about 400,000 at the time. It was a very small city for China. It's like, and all the other foreigners were basically religious people. So we had the Seventh-day Adventists. There were 4 guys who were the nicest and sanest ones. And then we had a couple of we had some Baptists who were full out weird. They were really weird.
No offense.
I asked one of them, do you speak Mandarin? Do you speak Chinese? She says, I speak all the tongues of the Lord.
Ooh. So
she lasted about 6 months, and then she had to go back because
she was speaking in tongues.
Yeah. So it was really it was really interesting. And then when I came back, having traveled and actually gone back to China a second time, when I came back to Toronto in 1990. I really wasn't anticipating getting back into performance or to theater, but it's all Beverly App's fault. I bumped into her and she went, you have to apply for this job. And next thing I knew, I was doing advocacy.
Oh. And that's because you went to Asia and because you had that,
I ended up getting hired by Sandra Tulloch at Theatre Ontario and doing advocacy and though I don't think I'd given up on theater completely, because I also came back with a suitcase full of basically props.
Such as
like ginormous Chinese flags and research materials and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So what was your transition from theater into TV and film?
So by the end of the by the mid-90s, I'd reestablished myself as a stage performer. I'd gone through I'd worked really hard in new play development and advocacy, and I started performing mostly because we were developing plays and we couldn't find older Asian actors. And then I remembered how much I loved it. Theater and acting. And I realized that I did want to try screen again. And at that point, my dear friend and colleague Kishwar Iqbal also was moving from advocacy into, in his case, becoming an agent. So when he took me on, I thought, here we go. Because with Kish, I'm very lucky that I have an agent who has a very similar agenda that I have, which is in terms of cultural equity. And I never had to argue with him about whether a role was worth going for. Like if it was stereotypical, he wouldn't show it to me and he wouldn't send me. And it's such a joy and such a blessing to have him. We're partners, Yeah, I love him so much.
And so he got to be like an agent and a manager, do you think?
I don't understand the agent-manager thing. I mean, he's my...
I think an agent will get you an audition and make sure you get an audition, and a manager will help, as you say, not show you...
then he's my manager.
Yeah, guide your
my
career.
He's my everything.
He's your everything.
Yeah. He's my everything guy.
He's a great guy.
I love him, yeah.
So what would you say the biggest differences are that for you as an artist in theater and then an artist in front of the camera? Have you had to, what kind of adjustments do you make, or do you find it very different?
Yeah, I mean, theater, it depends on the style of the show. Because sometimes, you know, you'll be in a movement piece where it's incredibly stylized physically. I think the fundamental difference that I've noticed in my own performance is that in theater we make blocking decisions, right?
Oh, she's getting up now.
Getting
okay.
up.
Okay.
So for instance,
remember it's a podcast.
I am aware. So you might make a blocking decision that you're going to turn your back to the audience. You're going to do something like this.
Right.
You turn your whole body, or a movement, right? Whereas what happens in film is that entire an impulse that you would put your whole body into in theater, you might just do with your eyes, or you might just do with your chin, like. The kind of blocking impulses that you have for your whole body might just be in your face. And I also find that in general, in film, right, you just think the thought. Mm-hmm. In theater, we're often very concerned with making sure that the voice projects to the back of the house, but with film and screen, it's really important to think the thought, and only think the thought, not act the thought, because...
What does that mean? What does that mean to you, act the thought?
When you consciously make gestures with your face, it's different from thinking the thought. Okay, this is my theory on it. It could be completely bogus, but if it's useful,
they'll tell us.
It's been useful to me, but if it's useful to you, then I think that when we feel or think, there's a whole range of neurons that trigger off hormones, and there are muscles that we can't control consciously. They're controlled through our breath and our parasympathetic system, right? So you literally just think the thought, and you don't even feel your face moving, but when the camera is this close, when you can, there's something, and you can't even, you'd have to go in there and analyze it with scientifically, but you can see it. And that's the key, to think the thought. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sometimes thinking the thought may not have any kind of movement in the face at all.
Well, not one that you've consciously planned.
Right.
There is something.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff that happens. There's stuff that happens with the eyes. They're little
minute.
tiny things. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the way, when you're with a good friend or a child or a parent, and you look at them and they say hi, and they've said nothing, they've done nothing different, but you know there's something wrong, right? It's that. Mm-hmm. We're able to read feelings on such a minute level, and as an actor, it means that we have to be as truthful and as economical as possible.
Right. So we interviewed Michael Riley a couple of times in a situation like this at the conferences, and he was saying that there's no difference. Theater, film, no difference. Acting is acting is acting. If you're there, you're there. If not, you're not. And
there are differences.
Yeah?
I think so. I mean, there's no difference in terms of your work ethic, but there are definitely differences in terms of tools, which tools you use the most. Like, you don't use a Phillips screwdriver for everything, right? Though it's a pretty handy one. Mm-hmm. But I think that there are differences.
So Umma, is it actually based on the work that you've done on TV? Not necessarily stage, but TV. Umma is a different character for you.
Yes.
And what was it difficult adjusting to that? How did
No.
No. So, well, talk about Umma and your process with her.
I get the script.
Good. That's a good start.
I learn it.
Yes. How do you learn? How do you learn your scripts?
How do I learn my scripts?
Yeah.
I find that the best, at the minimum, is 3 days in advance, and read the script over and over, know the context of the whole script, and then I start. The way I commit it to memory, I don't have anyone to run lines with.
No, your son won't do that with you?
He will, but you know, it's just like, do you want to ask a 16-year-old boy to read lines with you? Do you really?
I guess it
Sometimes,
depends.
if it's an emergency, but he's also very busy. So what I do is I basically get it to the point where I imagine the scene and I can run the lines in my head. So I will be like literally lying there and I'll be doing lines in my head, and then I'll get to a point and go, what? I'll look at the script. And then if I'm really completely prepared, I'll know everybody's lines. But I imagine it how it would look. Not just the lines, not just the words, but the story. What's the story that's being told? Where will I be? So if I'm really well prepared, I'll also come in with blocking options and awareness of how we want to shape the scene. But I try to keep it as flexible as possible, because you never know when you come in how it's going to go.
What happens if you get it less than 3 days in advance?
Then you just do it faster.
Okay. I know you. I know that you love to listen to political podcasts.
Yeah.
I know that you're a super political person, and you're very engaged. What lit that flame in you? Where did that begin?
I have two brothers. We spent our childhood basically fighting and debating over what's fair.
In the household.
In the household.
Uh-huh.
And my parents are also, especially my father, came to Canada and to North America with a great hope for democracy. And it's been a struggle for Korea to get to that point. I mean, for most of my childhood, my father was very active, lobbying for, advocating for, fundraising for the pro-democracy movement in Korea. Korea was largely under military dictatorship for a while. So I think that's where that expectation of justice comes from. And so right now, with the provincial government that we have now, and in particular, and the devastatingly fast crumbling of the justice system in the U.S., it's hard for me to look away. I think it's what's happening in the U.S. is really quite terrifying.
I was about to ask you, what gets you riled up?
Yeah.
That's it.
In lying, injustice, corruption, and it's not. I don't understand why Americans are not in the streets right now all the time. Like South Korea, South Koreans marched in the street every day, millions of people for 6 months until their president was impeached and removed, and she's now in jail. I don't understand how this man is able to. It's a transnational kleptocracy, right? It's the last gasp of people, billionaires with interest in the fossil fuel industry. It's awful. It's like, and yesterday was like, it was like, you know that moment in Harry Potter when all the Death Eaters break out of Azkaban? You see all the list of criminals and crooks and corrupt politicians that Trump pardoned yesterday? Holy mackerel.
So that's what gets you riled up. How many podcasts do you listen to besides ACTRA Spotlight?
Okay, is anybody following what's going on in the States here? Just me?
Yeah.
Mueller, She Wrote is really good, and they have a subscriber pod without the ads called The Daily Beans. I really like that. I listen to the Washington Post, the Washington Post one. The New York Times one, Michael Barbaro started to irritate me. And Rachel Maddow, I listen to her as a podcast because I don't have time to watch the show. Those are the big ones.
Yeah. Any Canadian ones?
Yeah, a few.
Front burner CBC is pretty good.
Yeah. And also just the regular CBC stuff, like The Current. Anything that you can listen to on radio is available in podcast.
So just switching away from American politics for a second, what do you think, how have things changed in our industry when it comes to diversity and inclusion since when you started?
way better. Sandy Ross. So Sandy Ross had put together Into the Mainstream, which was a collection. Basically, she got all the ACTRA members of color into into one booklet.
Like face to face.
Face to face, yeah. But it was that had Into the Mainstream had a huge impact in terms of our membership understanding that we had artists of color here, and also I think in terms of making reassuring American producers that we had the diversity here to shoot their projects, and work for artists of color and culturally diverse artists did increase.
Right.
And I think the other thing that's really wonderful is that there are more of us, and we're doing great work. The industry has shifted, the market has shifted. There are more opportunities. It's still not. There's still much more to do, but it's quite an improvement.
Based on what we know now, do you think that a Kim's Convenience could have happened 10 years ago?
No.
No.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm asking you a question.
No.
No.
No, I mean, I would have loved to have seen it happen, but no, I mean, one of the things I tried in 2000, I went to the Canadian Film Centre and did the TV writing program, and I went around pitching. And I had a show that I developed, and it was called What the Girl Did Wrong. And if you know Kim's Convenience, it's basically like Janet, except Mr. and Mrs. Kim live in the suburbs, right? And Jung would be, you know, grown up and kind of successfully the Prim brother instead. I literally had development people say, "Oh, we love it. We love this about it. We love that about it. We love this about it." But it's not us. Just telling you now, it's not us. But we can't take it upstairs unless there's a white character in the lead.
Wow.
Literally,
Wow.
to my face. To my face. And, you know, when I applied to the Canadian Film Centre, one of the questions that I was asked by one of the showrunners, and I think in their mind they wanted to see how I would navigate it, was the thing that he asked was, okay, we see what you're writing and what you'd like to write, and a lot of your characters are Asian, but what I want to know is, would you be able to write white characters? That was what I was asked when I applied to the CFC. This is in 2000. This is 20 years ago. So my answer was like, oh, these other characters, are they human? Like, are some of them women? Do they have feelings? You know, have they had their hearts broken? I think I can manage that.
So things have changed.
Yeah, things
Thank
have
goodness.
changed.
Okay,
Oh.
one quick one before we open questions up to the audience. One of the things that Jean loved to do in Spotlight was ask the performer what they brought in their kit on shooting day, what they brought personally. What do you bring in your kit when you're shooting?
Oh, I have a big kit. Okay, it depends. Okay, this is all ready to go. I don't take it all to set depending on the shoot, but obviously I'll take a yoga mat if I'm in a trailer that I don't, you know, I'm never sure what the condition of the mattress is going to be, but also because you can take it to the actual location, and sometimes there's no place to sit down, and you don't want to, or you know, you don't want to get your costume dirty, or you might want to lie down, throw the yoga mat down. It is really, really helpful. I have a little massager thing, kind of. It's like they're like $80 on Amazon. And sometimes if you're waiting around, you're getting tight. That's really helpful. Obviously, I'll take my you know, the basic kit, like your emergency things, like your emergency peppermint headache remedy and Advil, and your water bottle, and I actually have a big kit, but I can't even think of it right now.
Peppermint what?
Peppermint. Sage has this peppermint headache remedy, and you rub it on the back of your neck and around your temples, and it really helps. Yeah, that one's really good.
You'll have to get me some.
Yeah, sure. And they have a stress release one too that's really good. If I'm in a place for a long time, I'll take a little diffuser to put aromatherapy. If I'm there for like a week or more.
Fantastic. Okay, I want to take some questions from the audience, and we've got some mics there. So if you wouldn't mind coming up to the mic, because we need it recorded for the podcast. There's a mic there and a mic there. I'm sorry, I don't have a mic for you.
Question.
Sure. Go ahead.
I have a question. So, how long does it usually you film shorts, when do you get a break while you film Kim's Convenience?
So the question is, how much time is there between when you were shooting Kim's and then the next time you're shooting Kim's? How much break?
Yes.
Basically a year. We've been shooting Kim's with principal shooting beginning in the middle of May and ending at the end of July, beginning of August, end of July,
Okay.
and then till the next year.
Okay.
So any other questions? There's microphones here, just raise your hand and we'll repeat it. Questions? Yes, go. Question?
No.
Oh, you're waving. Okay, good.
That's Dana.
There's a question there in microphone 2.
Hi there.
Just say your name, please.
My name's Tristan, and I want to know if you've seen The Parasite.
Yes, I have.
And did you like it?
I loved it. I took my parents to it. Wasn't it amazing?
Right. It was crazy.
Did you have
It
to
was
read
psychotic.
the subtitles?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna buy it and then I'm gonna study it because I mean lots of parts of it I understood, but also they're using a lot of slang, and also I really want to study it because they're using a lot of swear words that no one will teach me.
You mean your mom won't teach you?
Are you kidding? No. I've learned most of the swear words I know in Korean. I've all learned from Paul.
Oh, sorry. I also.
Are your parents anything like Umma and Oppa?
No.
No, nothing.
No, my mom's more flaky. Okay, you want to see my mom? She's
Okay,
like,
here we go.
Yeah, my mom's just like flaky, kind of gesturally. She's like, oh ma, but she's a tough inside, I think. But my dad's a professor, so he's quite
Stern.
Yeah, not stern. He's just, you know.
I just had one question connected
Sure.
to that because it was 2 questions. But have you also seen The Interview?
Yes.
Oh, the interview?
Yes. How do you feel about that movie?
It's funny. I also watched that with my dad.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. You know, on what level are you asking? Because I love Seth Rogen and it was crazy, but what was really amazing was the response, like North Korea's response to it.
Yeah.
Randall Park's Kim Jong-un was less really like Kim Jong-un than maybe his dad, Kim Jong-il, in terms of his Here's the thing. We have Kim Il-sung, then his son Kim Jong-il, and then Kim Jong-un, right? And this new guy, Kim Jong-un, they've literally styled him so that he looks like his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. And people have kind of assumed that Westerners in general have, including the President of the United States, have assumed that they're kind of all the same guy. But they're not. They're really not. And everybody has this expectation around the North Korean leader, which I think is based more sort of on this
Perception of what they want us to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. There's somebody else up there on mic 2. Thank you.
Hi.
Say your name, please.
My name's Tony. For me, Kim's Convenience is such a milestone in terms of cultural diversity and stories. And I was wondering for you, Jean, what do you want to see next? What is the next step in that terms of diversity and culture and putting more stories on the Canadian screens?
In general?
Yeah.
I think it would be great if there weren't just one Asian show. We need to see more. I would really love to see more Asian Canadian writers and making films, web series, TV shows. That's the biggest thing. And also, I think that I love playing Mrs. Kim, but I would love to see some characters, non-accented characters that actually have more depth. I mean, I play non-accented characters all the time, but they're generally functional roles, whether they're the doctors that we talked about or the space captains and I love that being a space captain.
Oh,
that was
yeah,
fun.
Expanse was great.
But I'd love to see more of that as well.
Sujith, who's on the show with you, Sujith Spirihese, said that this year he did a theater show, or last year, was the first time that he played a character that was unaccented in his career.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And he's been around since
See,
79.
Mrs. Kim is the first real Korean accented character I played. Not the first, but the first big one. I've done maybe 2 or 3 little tiny ones, which no one will ever see because they were not very great projects. Yeah.
I think we have time for one last question up there, number 2. Please say your name first and speak directly into the mic.
Hi, I'm Arthur.
Hi, Arthur.
I was just curious. I didn't realize that this was actually, or Kim's Convenience was a fringe play before it was on TV. Did you have to shift your character at all performance-wise, going from stage to screen? I know you said it's kind of a different timeline, but otherwise, did you have to shift anything in your performance?
Not more. I just needed to respond to the script. I mean, I came both to the stage play and to the TV show with a great deal of awareness of the cultural context of this character. I've basically been preparing to play this kind of a role for 20 years, one way or another, either through studying Korean, spending so much time in Chinese occupied Korea, in terms of other projects that I've been involved with as a performer and also as a writer. So there wasn't so much a shift as an application, just simply applying all of that to the new script. Yeah. The Fringe play was fun, but it's a very different show.
But you did the show on stage at the same time as you were shooting Kim's series too. You did it in Montreal, and you did it in New York as
New
well.
York, yeah.
Yeah. So was that?
No, but the thing, by that point, Paul and I had both done it hundreds of times. By the time we finished our New York shows, I had done 322 performances of the play, and Paul had done 481. And and our setup in New York was basically we walked into the theater, we got the stage walk around, we did one run through of the play with lights, and basically the lights only change. There's very few lighting changes. They all happen within 15 minutes in the middle of the play, and that's that. And then we opened because we'd done it so many times.
Right. Well, we are so lucky to have you for our podcast, and we are so proud to be celebrating you as our Award of Excellence winner, Jean Yoon.
Thanks,
you
David.
are a force to be reckoned with and a talent beyond belief. Let's hear it for Jean Yoon. Well, Jean is truly amazing. If you want to hear more passion, politics, and humor from Jean Yoon, check out her brilliant, and I mean brilliant, Award of Excellence acceptance speech by following the link on our episode notes. Thanks so much for listening. Again, I'm David Gale. ACTRA Spotlight is produced by Cass Enright and recorded in ACTRA Toronto's Gordon Pinsent studio. You can get Spotlight on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to rate us and to subscribe. And don't forget to keep watching Canadian, because we're great.